Confronting the Darkness. I'm Rob Jacobs.
And I'm Father Bob Bailey.
Tonight we've got a special guest with us. I'd like to introduce now Jim Steberl. Welcome.
Glad to be here.
He said the name right.
He sure did.
Jim is an affiliate of the PWSM ministry. Come a long way. This was very nice to have you here with us tonight.
So good to be here, finally.
Yep, he hails all the way from Kentucky.
Kentucky, a little over 15-hour drive, so
Oh, you drove.
yeah, drove.
Oh, wow.
That's a long drive.
Long
He
drive.
came with a friend for a wedding in Newport, which is a favorite city or town, I'm not sure. But
What's the town?
town, yeah. But we're so happy that he took time out today to visit with us, and we nabbed him into doing the show with us.
And how long have you been involved in the area of, let's say, spiritual warfare?
Spiritual warfare, it's been the last few years. If you take it back to the paranormal side, it started about 1999 is when I actually, took it to that level. I was working in law enforcement at that time, and I was interested in the ghost and paranormal aspect of it, and got involved with some groups. Did a moderation on a radio show with Lou Gentili, which he's passed now, but back then, I kind of got in his group and just interested in over the years, and finally it's led up to the last few years just basically staying with spiritual warfare. I think that's just where God has called me, and this spiritual warfare, for me, it's just not something you take interest in and do it. You gotta have some sort of calling, because it's a very serious thing.
True, and it's an area that is needed because there are paranormal groups galore. You can throw a stone to the
Yeah.
and so there are many who go in that concentration of ghosts, but not enough of good, educated and spiritual people to deal with warfare. So we're so happy that our lives met, crossed, and so now you're one of our resource people over in your area.
Now, was there anything specific that you experienced that led you towards the paranormal to begin with?
Well, as a kid, I had a few experiences, especially in my teen years. I kind of dabbled just a little bit, curiosity on some things, read some books on, at that time, we didn't have the resources we do nowadays with television, and, I was mid-70s, I got in some areas, kind of dabbling, just, in some places I shouldn't have been, looking up some witchcraft stuff and different things, and what I realized out of that is that stuff's real also too, and, unfortunately I caused some havoc in our house, and, that's where I got my first dealing with, a local pastor having to come in and, bless the home we were living in, because when you dabble in the bad stuff, you're going to get bad stuff. So, unfortunately, I realized at that time that this stuff's real, and, during that time, unfortunately, I got to experience some hauntings and seeing things, and then later on in the years, I guess some of that stuff even followed me with, those people have those sleep paralysis. I had to dealing with that, in my mid-20s, with the Hat Man, and, that was, at that time, I think I geared more into the interest of, where God was going to put me eventually, because when that happened, that's the only thing I could think of was just praying, and it's the only thing that would break what was happening to me at the time. I was scared. I didn't know what was happening, what I was dealing with, because I know after whatever that you know, the dark man or whatever, the hat man, he kind of broke his grip on me. You know, I was in prayer till morning, I think to sunrise, and I was still just praying, like, what just happened? That was the most scary thing that's ever happened to me. And over the years, you know, I just would always go back to that, thinking that was a very real thing that's happened to me. You know, when you're in no control of what's going on and you're being held down, and, you know, that's a scary place. So over the years, like I said, about 1999, I wanted to find something more, you know, in that area. And, you know, we found your local paranormal groups, your ghost groups. I thought, well, I'll try this. And you know, in 2000, I got, you know, involved in some little ghost groups that, you know, they did the cemeteries and haunted locations and things like that. And, you know, we did that for years and formed our own group. And I was with the Kentucky Paranormal for many years now, still affiliated with them. But there got to be a point where, you know, going back to the original with what happened to me, and God just tugging on me, you know, because I was involved in church growing up so much, that there's something else out there, or there's a need out there, you know, that has to take precedence more than just going out and seeing if it's a place haunted. So I knew it was helping people. That was the main thing, because these people, we would go into a home, investigate it, say, yeah, I think you may have something going on here. We'd pack our equipment up and leave.
Mm-hmm.
And the people are like, what do we do now?
Right.
Well, I don't know. And that's the majority of your paranormal groups now. They leave them like that and not knowing what to do. So, you know, in the last 4 to 5 years, I guess, you know, I knew, you know, Lord, you know, God, what else do I need to be doing here? You know, what else can I be doing to help these people? And with the law enforcement background, really gave me a better feel of talking to people, going in and interviewing families, and really asking the right questions, and, you know, and trying to, you know, because sometimes it may not be haunted, it may be something mental, or it may be something else going on. So, you know, I think, you know, the Lord's kind of gave me some good insight on, you know, filling these people out and seeing if I got something legitimate, or is it something, you know, in their head, and, you know, so I just...
And I think what you say is so important, and we've dealt this in past programs here too, is that, you know, a good seasoned person with spiritual warfare, there has to be an element where you need to also see if there are psychological issues.
Right.
That we are not like fundamentalists who just, everything's the devil. But there are also psychological conditions, you know, that might be an answer for it. And there might be spiritual, and there might be a little of both. But if there is both, you need to handle both sides, you know,
Right.
psychologically and spiritually, you know, like two parts of a hinge.
Yeah.
So that's really important that you have that background with the law enforcement, is that you would look into and really try to see, you know, and discern, you know, each case.
Yeah, now some of the cases we've handled, you know, that's the first thing we do is recommend even going to their psychologist, you know, and even though most of the time when we're talking to them, they say, I don't want you to think I'm crazy, I don't want you to think I'm crazy, so we hate to say, well, go to a psychologist, you know, but we tell them, you know, go to a psychologist, just make sure, you know, everything's legitimate, that there's something, you know, people with bipolar, you know, or people that may need medication, not that they're crazy, but that it could cause them to hear things or see things. So
Right.
we just try to put that in there. If there's a more severe case, you know, we've worked a few good cases that, you know, we recommended going to a psychologist, you know, just to make sure.
And it's smart, because if you encourage them to mask the spiritual with the psychological, it's not going to help. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
And we had, as a matter of fact, one of our really success cases was in New Hampshire with
Oh,
a girl who had psychological issues, but also spiritual. We helped with the spiritual. She also went to get the psychological, and she was a different person after that.
It wasn't quick though.
No, it was
No.
gradually, but again, dealing with both
But that was an
Both
interesting one
sides.
because it actually was part mental illness and part something of a negative or demonic nature with her. And you're talking about a girl who, she couldn't drive, she couldn't walk by a mirror without having a problem. They had all the mirrors covered in the house, and I think we saw her 3 times.
Mm.
And by the time we saw her on the 3rd time, she was actually driving again. She was back in school. So it was amazing to see the turnaround for her because she had some, I think it was speaking through her too, right? It was
Yes.
very nasty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I tried to pray over her.
Yeah. We were afraid she was going to attack him. So we had a couple of guys there with us that hopefully would have stopped her, but
Right.
luckily it didn't come to that. But actually, to go back to the sleep paralysis, I've experienced that myself. So yeah, I think it's tough for somebody to understand who hasn't been through it, how helpless you feel. And I mean, you're laying there, you can't move, you can't talk.
No. Even, I'm a big guy now, but, my mid-20s, I was still a pretty burly kind of kid. And just to be held down into a position, that's life-changing.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's what's kind of geared me to where I'm at now, because I thought, well, all right, if you want to play it like that, I'm going to get myself more equipped, and now I'm at a point now. I think that it's a little different now. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sure. Now, can you describe maybe some of the cases that you have, or one, something that stands out to you, and how you, how you pursued that, ministering to those people?
Well, with our ministry, we're not Catholic,
Mm-hmm.
and so we're more non-denominational type.
Sure.
We would just pray with them. But one of the cases was a lady who was actually, she was, being sexually abused and stuff at night. Yes.
Yeah.
But how this started off is she thought she was talking to angels, and so she would communicate, and she'd try to have friendly conversations with it. And she would hear them at night, they would talk to her, and she would just have conversation. And it got to be where she would walk in, and she would just start having conversations and start hearing them. And, eventually it started turning ugly, and she thought there was 2 separate entities, like it had an angel that she was talking to, and then something bad was coming in. But, it could have been the same thing, just masking itself, into something that would change later, which did. And her story was, very, believable. When she would tell her story, she would get very emotional. And people that deal with this stuff, most of the cases I've dealt with that are severe, and it has to do with family or people not being able to sleep, it is very emotional to them. So when she explained what happened, like being held down where, she could, when this thing would even like put its tongue in her mouth, she would feel that. She would describe it, the warmth of it, and, when she didn't know what to do, she panicked. She said she thought she even bit into it, and she could almost like feel like blood and stuff, and she couldn't almost even tell the story, because she started reliving it. And so we would calm her down, and so what we did, we just went through, a series of just prayer, and just because her lifestyle, she wasn't living a great lifestyle. She wasn't involved in church, and even with us, a non-denominational background, we would recommend just any church really getting involved. We wouldn't just say go to this or this denomination. So we would just say find a church of your choice and just get plugged into a church at least. Because to fight this thing, you got to change some lifestyle. So we would just go in mainly as just ministering, just praying and getting their life back on track. That was we figured, we're here, Lord, how do we help these people? Because that was our question. I'm not a pastor, but I've worked in churches. I was a youth pastor long ago, and I'm involved in church now, music ministries. But and I'm thinking, how am I qualified here, Lord? What can I do to help these people? And but it just comes to me. He for most part, he fills me in. He helps me. I want to ask him, and sometimes he'll give me insights on, what's going on, and
It's the work of the Spirit.
yeah,
Work
and
of the Holy Spirit.
I just know that where I'm supposed to be, and then we'll talk to the people, pray with her, and she wanted to accept the Lord into her life, and that was a big break right there. A big lifting, and we took a lot of the stuff in her home that she had. She had problems with the mirrors. She had some other groups come in, and with some psychics that came in that had her turn the mirrors in certain ways, and she had a huge pan of salt water under her bed, and they told her if you turn the mirrors a certain way, it's going to shoot it straight out the window, and I don't know. They had it all messed
Heard some
up.
crazy ideas too when that happened.
So we just eliminated all that stuff so she wouldn't think about it. But and this worked for quite a few months, and we were on the right. Even some of her family members that wanted to come to see what was going on with her ended up accepting the Lord also into their lives. So it was really, a great time. But I think what happened over the following year that she kind of started going back into her ways. And, you can only help so much.
That's
You know,
right.
That's what I've learned now with spiritual warfare is you can show them, hey, put yourself on the right track, and if you don't stay on that certain track, if you want to do what you want to do and dabble, and it's going to come back. So
Yeah. I think that's probably the most frustrating for us who do this ministry,
Yeah.
is when people don't listen to you and don't do I call them the prescriptions.
Yeah.
This is a prescription that you have to follow for the rest of your life now because you've come in contact with evil. And it's like having a sickness that you're cured. In order to be able, you have to take the medication.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
So
some
spiritually, you have prescriptions too.
Some of them, I think they're under the false pretense that it's some sort of magic, and it's not. They need to change their lifestyle. They need to have real faith, and they have to continue with some sort of regimen of, keeping their life in a certain direction, because if they don't, they're going to invite it back, And we found some that you get rid of something and they tend to miss it and almost bring it back, because as much as they hated it, it was just something about it that they
It was
was
some
place
kind
and
of
they had
tension.
it.
well, I think that's what happened with this lady. I think she ended up. We told her, don't talk to the good thing either, unless you're praying and you're talking to the Father above and Jesus, and because she wasn't Catholic, so we'd have told her other things, but we just stuck with the main.
Yeah, the Trinity.
Yeah, and don't start talking to this angel. You really don't know who that is, unless, and that's what we knew happened. She was getting back into that. She was missing it. I don't know what. It's just like being in law enforcement, working with domestic violence. We're going back week after week, with domestic situation, husband and wife, and getting into it. And, they go right back into it. So, and there's only so much you can do for people.
And that's even like us with Catholics. We don't go out there just looking for any angel and all that. We have specifics. We have the prayer to St. Michael. We have this St. Gabriel, St. Raphael, all from Scripture. St. Uriel the Archangel too is from the Scripture. And our guardian angel, which we know we all have. So you address them, but you don't get into that thing where they're speaking to you, because you don't know. You don't know. When I pray to St. Michael for protection and stuff, I give that prayer out, but and that's it. You know what I mean? I don't get into a communication because, again, you don't know. If there's time to hear voices, you got to discern that.
Yeah.
You really got to discern that. So.
Don't realize, even if they're seeing something, what they believe is good, it certainly can be something opposite of that. And we were just talking about that, there was someone who, said that the ghost of a child, and we know that many times something demonic will pose as a child because, it looks innocent, it's a child, so.
Especially if it's scaring children.
Right.
Yeah. Most of the other cases are dealing with families, are not as severe as what this lady went through. It's just the noises or the kids. Well, with one family, the kids were getting jerked around and pulled out of the beds. We would go in and pray over the homes, anoint things. Like I said, even, I guess non-denominational, the more help I felt, the better. St. Michael, I still call on the saints to help you. And I'm not Catholic, but I'm all for that. Holy water, I still use that and oil to anoint doors and stuff.
Which is part of Protestant tradition too, anointing oil.
So I'm all for all that, and we mainly like to bring light, godly light into a home, and brighten things up, Tell people, you have some dark areas in their home, just start opening up the windows, bring in some more positive music even to,
And just saying to play Christian music.
just to kind of, we've been in homes clearly. You could say, if I was living here, I would probably be hearing things also. Brighten the place up, open this up, move some of this stuff out.
Clean it up.
Make some of it cluttered.
Yep.
Clean it up. Come in and just bring in, I don't like to say positive energy because
but you make instead of dreary and all that, if the house is dreary, it attracts.
Yes.
It attracts dreariness. But if you have like nice pictures of nature and stuff, and nice curtains, open the windows, maybe a paint that's something alive, it makes a big difference.
Exactly.
Brighter. Yeah.
And that's going to affect your mood too, because we know anything demonic is attracted to the negative, to sadness, depression, anger.
Chaos.
Yeah, and chaos.
How many times we walked into a place and they said, well, we feel it in the basement, but you can hardly walk in there.
Yeah.
And it's like, part of the prescription is you're going to clean that basement because the clutter is chaos, and evil thrives with chaos.
And in the darkness.
So,
Right.
And we've seen that numerous times. Almost, I can guarantee you, every place we've been in, if there was something legitimately bad there was a mess.
Yeah.
And it was dark, and
One place we couldn't even get into, it was just crazy. They had stuff piled up, almost like a hoarder. We was like,
oh yeah.
we even left. I remember we didn't even finish it. We just said, listen, how about this? We'll come back in a few weeks, clean this up. We'll come back.
you're very smart because
Yes,
you're going to keep going to go back there, back there.
Yeah.
It's and you wonder, and not to be judgmental, but you just wonder when I look in. It's like, okay, I'm a guy, living alone. I'm not perfectly clean, but I like it orderly and clean. I just don't know how people can live in that chaos.
Yeah.
exactly.
Even with, now I know kids' rooms are, can be a little dirty, especially in the teenage years. They got things thrown all over the place.
Oh yes.
But I mean, I've seen things where you can't even walk. And I say, as a parent, that would not.
No.
That would never happen. They wouldn't be out of the house until they cleaned it.
Yeah. Oh, I've got a 20 and a 21-year-old, and let me tell you, I'm on them all the time. But I mean, their rooms you can walk through.
Oh yeah.
But it's a shambles. I mean, you got to clean it. I mean, never mind some of these. We've been in places where you can't. You literally, like you were saying, you cannot move in there, and there's stuff spilled everywhere. And I know one house we couldn't breathe, and we had to walk out. It was so bad. And you're just asking for something bad to enter there. And your demeanor is going to change. If you're in a place that's clean and you can feel proud of it, but if you've got something that's a mess, it's going to bring you down with it. And then, you get into that rut, and there's nowhere to go but up, but you've got to get there to get out.
I'm sure you feel like this is, and plus this is too big for me to be able to handle it. There's so much mess here. Why do that? So,
Yeah.
But but those are some realities that we find.
Yeah. Yep. I think, have you had any that really stick out, any bad cases that really stayed with you?
No, that was probably about the worst.
How about success stories?
Well,
Those are always good.
Yeah.
well, we've got one lady, and her family was going through. She was experiencing, I guess, stuff being wrote on the mirrors, things being moved. Nothing really major, but she was at her wit's end when she contacted us. We can't sleep. The kids are getting woke up. We're seeing stuff going down the halls, in the basement. That's where they have their laundry. And, we went down and spent a whole day with them, and we made suggestions about cleaning up. And her place was pretty nice, though. Really nice home. But it was just mainly just getting her back involved in church. And I think we've been friends now a little over 2 years, and we're in constant contact with her and her family, and they were actually going through some marital problems, because of being away from the church, and it was causing some conflict. And once we talked to them and went through their home, and just mainly, other than the spiritual warfare, like I said, I think God just gave me a calling to minister, and I would just minister. He would just give me things to say to them, and situations they were going to with Scripture and places in the Bible they can look, and just getting them back involved in church. And that's what they did. They turned right around and got plugged into a nice church local, and she would month to month, like, oh, this is great. Me and my husband are. It's great for, we're getting along so much better. The kids, it's so much nicer in our home. We know how to, and the thing is, even when we leave, what we want to do is empower these people to take over their own homes. It's theirs. I'll say, yeah, well, we're here. We're gonna clean up whatever you have in here. We're gonna clean it up, because I know the Holy Spirit that's in me. When we're in here, we're gonna take care of this. But when we leave, He's waiting around the corner. And if you don't clean your life up, if you don't rededicate your lives and get yourselves back on the right path, He's just going to be waiting to get back in here. And if you give Him it's like opening up the door. You open up the door and say, I don't want to live right. You open up the door and say, well, just come on back in. That's what's going to happen. So I think with this particular family, they gained the power back to keep their doors closed. And, even 3 years later, they're, everything's still going great.
That's excellent.
So really, I know then, I say, Lord, I know I'm in the right spot. Even if, we handle 1 or 2 cases a month, we're going to find that one family that's going to be a success story.
Oh, yeah.
The most, 80% probably are the ones that keep wanting to go back. I think I got an attachment from ghost hunting. Well, get out of ghost hunting. Well, 6 months later, I think it's back. I got something else. Well, what are you doing? You still ghost hunting? Yeah. So there you go. Some people just won't. They're not going to listen.
Well, there's certain, you need to take precautions. You need to protect yourself, whether it's ghost hunting or something like spiritual.
And I think that's
because you never know what you're going to deal with.
Exactly, and that's part of our trying to educate paranormal investigators that you don't know what you're going to go into. Don't assume it's a ghost. Don't assume it's a human spirit. Assume that it may be something dark, and protect yourself before and after you go to these places, because the reality.
Now, do you all find that being in this ministry type thing that we're targeted?
Oh, certainly.
Absolutely.
Sometimes these things just go haywire.
Yeah.
Things in my life, I keep thinking about Job, in the Bible, all the crazy things, he I know it's not going to get to that level, but, I think sometimes, a lot of things have been happening in my life since then.
And they'll usually hit you below the belt. Not with, I would say, it won't be with horns and a pitchfork coming at you, but it'll be through everyday events that just magnifies it. Where did this come from?
Right.
Why now? Well, because I just did something, or I'm about to do ministry.
Right.
Yeah, oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a big thing. Right before a case.
Oh, yeah.
But my other partner will be the same way. So I think something's getting ready to happen, because I hear stuff out, trying to aggravate me, or I'll have some stuff going on, and I'm like, yep. And then sure enough, we'll get a call of a case, and then other things will happen, like maybe vehicle problems, or things. It's hard to get there, or they're canceled. Well, we can't make it now, and that's happened a few times. The client will be like, the last minute, we're almost in the car, packed up, ready to go, and they're like, well, we got called to do something else. Like, okay.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's when we're trying to educate paranormal investigators or those who are going in to deal with to begin with 3 days of preparation prayer, and then after 3 days after, 2 at least, just to give them something to, to focus. You need to build up to this, because sometimes all hell can break loose,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
We started recognizing too, a lot of times we'd have people call for help and the day of they cancel. And you start to get frustrated and you have to realize it's not necessarily them, or is it the demon or whatever they're dealing with that's making them say no, which kind of will validate more that there really is something.
Yeah, and one way that I get retaliation, and sometimes I can't, it takes a while to break, is I can't pray after a while. I'm just like, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I'm lethargic, I can't, and I'm just like in this rut, and it's like, as soon as I get out of it, things are better. But that's, everybody, the enemy attacks everybody in different ways according to their, what is, their weakness in life.
Right.
And me, without praying, for myself, it just, you can just see things going downhill without personal prayer. So.
There's a lot of avenues. I think we've been hit by several of them. And we just did a show prior to this, and we talked exactly about that. What you deal with.
Yeah.
But we are at that point.
Yes. Could you tell us the name of your group? Your ministry.
It's Spiritual Warfare Ministries of Kentucky.
And you go through the state of Kentucky.
Yes.
Okay. So.
And surrounding. We've had cases in Tennessee, Indiana.
Right. So people could get in touch with you, as far as in that area if they need spiritual help.
Yes.
Do you have an email address you want to share?
If you want, you can just use my email. It's under Steberl, Steberl @yahoo.com.
Maybe we can get it up on the behind us.
Yeah.
We'll throw it back up on that.
Put it up. All right, and with that, that's 30 minutes. Goes by quick. I want to thank everybody for tuning into this episode. It was great to have you on, Jim.
Yes, thank you very much.
great to
It's
be
great
here.
to meet you finally
Yeah.
after, you've been in our network, but now we actually get to meet face to
Yeah,
face.
it's nice when we finally get to meet people, other than just, online. So that's going to do it for tonight. Thank you for watching Confronting the Darkness. I'm Rob Jacobs.
And I'm Father Bob Bailey, and remember,
When confronting the darkness
put on the whole armor of God.
with the sword of St. Michael.
God bless you.
God bless you.